A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
From the offseason to the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome in to One Giant Step. We are a week away from the NFL draft, and you're going to want to download and subscribe to One Giant Step everywhere podcasts are available. Before we get into today's episode, I am Shaun Morash. He's Bryce Gelman. Let me just kind of lay out the expectations, or at least in my head, card subject to change on what's going to happen over the course of the NFL draft and the coverage we're going to bring you, because I like being as transparent as possible. Bryce, after this episode is off for a little weekend getaway in Las Vegas. Good luck, Bryce. Good luck at the tables. Good luck with all the wrestling heathens as WrestleMania embarks on Las Vegas. But with that, we are taping this episode, and then next week we have draft week. So my plan, and I'm sure Bryce is in lockstep, early next week, kind of give you our final predictions, thoughts, what we think, should go down Thursday draft-wise. What I don't know yet based on logistics, strictly logistics. Remember, this podcast is not either of our full-time jobs. I'm over there with Evan and Tiki on WFAN. Bryce, hand in a million different pots in radio as the young man climbs the ladder. On draft day, Thursday, round one, the Giants will be holding a massive watch party at MetLife Stadium, which I think is really cool. If you are attending, or even if you're not, we will be doing on WFAN free on the Audacy app, Evan and Tiki live from the Dream Bar at American Dream, right across the parking lot from MetLife Stadium. If you've never been, it's an awesome facility. Dream Bar is where we will be, drinks, getting you set for draft day. I say that to say, on night one of the NFL draft, I still at this very moment taping the podcast do not know if I am set to return home to finish the draft, of which I would do a late night podcast possibly, or I'm going to be sticking around the Meadowlands Complex, American Dream, watching the draft there, of which maybe, some kind of Friday morning recap of round one comes your way. My hope is preview pod, some kind of reaction to whatever the Giants do in round one, and then probably some kind of cleanup, whether that be the following Monday, Sunday, whatever, on rounds 2, 3, and 4, barring anything insane. Like if the Giants don't take a quarterback in round one and take one on day 2, and we find a way on a set, maybe. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not skipping my kids' T-ball game to tape a podcast as much as I love you all.
Screw that. Unimportant.
But look, I laid this whole thing out, Bryce, because this is why I encourage everybody to download and subscribe.
Yeah.
Draft week is hectic and chaotic. So when me and Bryce find these times to carve out these pods, preview, reaction, and you're wondering where they are, don't wonder. If you download and subscribe, you're going to get that alert. Free on the Audacy app, anywhere podcasts are available. So that's my big sell, my big pitch. All right, Bryce, sound like a plan? You in lockstep?
Yeah.
All right. Good. And I would also encourage anybody to add Shaun Morash, at Bryce Gelman on Twitter. Next week, early, will be our last kind of final thoughts. I think we'll officially give who we think and what we want, which are two different things at times the Giants will do. If you have any draft questions you want answered as well, just hit us up on Twitter at Bryce Gelman, at Shaun Morash. We will do our best to kind of hit on those questions on the preview pod next week. All right, Bryce. I said last week I wanted to get into some of the quarterback options, but first let's start with this. Tuesday, April the 15th. The Giants are holding a private workout with Shedeur Sanders. One more look at Shedeur Sanders, which when this was reported by Tom Pelissero, I think Rappaport, Schefter, they all started to have it that this is going down, and not at the Meadowlands, not a top 30 visit with a workout. No. The Giants getting back on a flight to Boulder, where they've been a million times now, to Colorado. So, Bryce, before I get your reaction, let me just lay out. I did some digging, and this is what I can give you. The reports, from what I gather, of the Giants looking to take Abdul Carter should the Browns take Hunter feel real and feel true. This, as much as I can connect the dots from as many different people that I spoke to, between their sources, what I've spoke to, I don't think there's unity within the Giants room on what they want to do here. I think there are a faction of people in that room that like Shedeur Sanders. I think there are other people in that room that need to be sold. Who's who? I don't know. I don't know that. There's a large faction of people who are in agreement. They think Abdul Carter is going to be a stud and then go with it. To me, You have been to Boulder, Colorado. I mean, think about this. Of all the draft lead-ups, Bryce, we've lost track on how many flights, whether it was in season or postseason, the Giants have freaking taken to Boulder, Colorado to look at Shedeur Sanders. And here we are, one last workout, which Dable likes to do with any quarterback prospect. I don't believe you're going out there for one last look if you're truly set on passing at him at 3. Smoke screens be damned. My initial gut instinct is this final look is for those in favor of Shedeur Sanders to try to sell whoever's not, kind of like a jury would be if they're split on a guilty, not guilty verdict. I think that's where it's going.
Closing arguments.
Yeah, your closing arguments.
Yeah.
So your reaction?
So I saw earlier today, when obviously this was reported, that this is supposedly planned for weeks at this point. And the Giants, finally set it up. I don't know if they were iffy on it, but it was planned. And they eventually went through with that plan. Do I think it is a smokescreen? No, I do not. I tend to agree with you in the fact that the entire room isn't completely sold on him. There's some people who want to take him, others who don't. That is just, the natural way of life. People agree on things, people disagree on things. And I think with the current situation the Giants have where they need a quarterback, I think that that's an inevitability, that some people are going to want him, some people don't. This is to clear all that up. This is the final little piece of due diligence, Shaun, that the Giants are doing in order to make sure that they are making the right decision in passing on him and taking an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, depending on what the Browns do at 2. So I don't think it's smokescreen. I genuinely don't. I think that this is the Giants just being like, we got to see this guy one more time just to make sure we are making the right decision and to sway the rest of the guys in the room on the decision they want to make at the top. Whatever Joe Shane and Brian Dable want to do. We don't know if they're in lockstep. They might be the ones who are in disagreement about the situation here. We don't know this. What we do know, and what we think we know, is that the Giants wouldn't be flying out there, even if it's planned, if they really knew what they were going to do. So I think there are a lot of people out there, maybe with the Giants brass, who want to go a certain way. This is to clear all that up. The second they get back on that plane, back to Newark, wherever they're flying back into, I think they should know what they want to do in the draft next Thursday.
This is really novice. I'm trying not to overreact, but again, it borders on scary for me because at this point, a week out of the draft, I think when you've seen, because we know they've seen Shedeur Sanders so much, right, Bryce? That's what scares me. To me, there should be nothing more left to see or hear. You have all the tape in the world. You've talked to him a million times. So that worries me a little bit, but who knows? The other thing is we don't know, right? This could be as simple as maybe Dable and Shane are split, where Shane's looking at this like we need to put a quarterback in the board. Dable's like, I don't know, maybe Dable really likes him, but there's a lot of different jobs on the line. Maybe it's an ownership sell. Okay, look, if we're really interested in this quarterback, you need to be sold. And before anybody screams and yells, I understand John Mara's probably not on that flight, but Chris Mara is, he could report back and
so there's a lot of pressure here. That's why they're doing this. There's pressure. Yeah. If there wasn't pressure to take a quarterback,
no stone unturned.
Yeah, if there wasn't pressure, they wouldn't be flying back out to Boulder a week before the draft. That's the truth.
I'm going to be on record of this because I know Bryce and I we've disagreed. There's no point to argue about whether we like Shedeur Sanders or not. I'm confident. I guess what are we at? 9 days out here. I'm confident that my reaction, whether it's Abdul Carter or whether it's Shedeur Sanders, I will actually be happy with either decision. And just hear me out on why. If it's Shedeur Sanders, I live with the fact if he ends up busting, he busts. But I also understand, I'm trying to think down the line. I expect the Giants to start taking incrementally better steps forward with this roster. I think they did a good job in the offseason. And I'm pretty comfortable in saying, and again, I could be wrong, I don't think the Giants are picking top 3 again for a while. At least I hope not. Now, it doesn't mean they won't be picking top 10 or top 12, depending on whatever year they had. And I think that in the immediate future of needing a quarterback and a franchise quarterback, I think the odds are the Giants will not be in a position to get the best quarterback in any of the next 2-3 drafts if this roster is taking a step forward, we all expect that to be. Meaning that while we get here and while we question J.J. McCarthy last year and we question Bo Nix and we're questioning Shedeur Sanders this year, does anybody honestly think that next year we're not going to be sitting here questioning whatever quarterback could be in the range of the New York Giants? Let's be real about this. Let's be real about it. I know we're living in the moment, but be real. Because we all remember vividly what we thought last year about the quarterbacks we thought would be in the range of the New York Giants. We are sitting here living this with Shedeur Sanders. So I just say that to say, could Shedeur Sanders end up being a big-time bust where we're screaming and yelling? Yes, of course. I'm not an idiot to that. But I also understand that you cannot successfully build a long-term program, an organization, without a young franchise quarterback that is with you for years. Like, that's the recipe now. That's the way the league has gone. So, what's the 50 Cent saying? Get rich or die trying. That's what the Giants got to do. So, look, if they choose to ignore Shedeur Sanders, more on what that could mean. We're going to get to these other quarterbacks in the draft in a second. And take Abdul Carter. Like I said on the last pod, I'm into it because it means you're establishing an identity. If you take a swing at Shedeur Sanders, you've seen him a million times, so at least I'm going under the assumption that some of you must like him enough to do that. And if he hits, awesome. We will look back and go, why the hell do we even second guess this? If he doesn't, the real critical key is just don't do what you did with Daniel Jones and wonder what if for 6 years. Get out of it after 2-3 years tops and change the table. The worst thing the Giants did with the Daniel Jones situation was keep prolonging and prolonging and prolonging. You are allowed to take another swing at a quarterback in the first round if you have one on the roster. The Arizona Cardinals did it. We all thought they were nuts at the time when they did it, and they were right.
Have they won? Have they won anything?
They haven't won, but again, Bryce, perfect example. You're right. They haven't won. They made one playoff. They were right because Josh Rosen's out of the league. But what I'm saying they were right in at least pulling the ripcord on Rosen when they had the first overall pick. And if the Giants stink up the streets this year, if they're terrible, and if they are picking top 3 next year, and I don't believe Arch Manning's coming up. We have a whole college football season to talk about that, whether it's Nussmeier, whether it's Drew Aller, we'll go through some of the names and they'll become prevalent. And the Giants are up there. And a new regime comes in, by the way, because they're picking top 3. They take a quarterback again. And I won't care. Because it's so damn important to get that position right. So I'm just putting this on the record because I know on draft night there is going to be people mad no matter what the Giants do. There's going to be pro-Sanders people pissed if they take Abdul Carter. There's going to be pro-Abdul Carter people pissed if they take Shedeur Sanders. And a lot of you are listening to this right now. I'm telling you, and I don't care if it's a waffling take. I see both sides of the coin, and I will understand both sides of the coin. But just know if they take Abdul Carter, and we all love it, just know you are going to have your same doubts and questions you have about Shedeur Sanders, about whoever that next quarterback is next year. I could guarantee it because anybody not named Arch Manning will come with those questions going forward. And that's my spiel, Bryce.
It's very unlike you to be okay with multiple different outcomes.
I know. I think I'm evolving as a Giants fan, though, dude, Bryce. I've seen so many turd sandwiches that I understand where the league is going, but I understand the processes of the quarterback. I hate to say this, but I actually think I've matured as an NFL fan ahead of the NFL draft.
You know what? I'm going to second that statement because I've seen a maturity level from you over the last year and a half go up. So congratulations to you. For the sane take.
I don't poop my pants anymore, man. I don't poop my pants.
Good point. I don't agree. I think that taking Sanders at 3 would be a mistake. I understand why people want it. I just don't think any of the moves that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have made this offseason have signaled to you that they are fearful of losing their jobs in terms of, going all in on a quarterback. They wanted to go all in Stafford. Of course, that didn't work out. He decided to stay in LA. That was the right move. They made the right moves when it comes to the quarterback this offseason. They've done their due diligence on every single possible scenario, every single possible situation. It just didn't pan out. So instead of going out there and then trying to trade for someone else that, isn't as good as Stafford, they sat back. They signed the guys they wanted to sign. They bolstered the defense. They bolstered, the biggest area of need, which is the secondary. They still need to address the defensive tackle position. They will do that in the draft. They have done every single thing to improve this roster, and they haven't made any moves that signal to me that they are willing to put their entire – listen, if they take a quarterback, their jobs are way more on the line because then there's more pressure on that quarterback to succeed, and there's more pressure on that quarterback to look good for them. if they take the best player available with, I hate continuing to bring it up. I know you hate when I bring this up. The Giants' schedule is impossible next year. Like, you draft Shedeur Sanders, I don't think that you see much of him in the season next year. You lose the majority of the games that you play. Maybe at the end of the season, you're like, Russell Wilson.
That's when you win. They're going to ride Russ. They're going to ride Russ until they feel like they're out of it, and then they're going to turn to a quarterback to go, look, this is what's going to give us promise. So it depends how quickly they would get out of it in that case. Again, more on that. We're going to do a whole schedule reaction pod. I know everybody lives with that. This is another thing I've matured on. I've learned my lesson, man. I have, because I've been you, Bryce, in that spot going, the schedule's impossible. Then those are the years where they win 9 games. Oh, the schedule's easy. Then they only win 3 games. We say it all the time. You don't know. Mahomes could break his tibia, and suddenly the Chief game looks completely different. I mean,
it's fun. It's fun.
It's part of the NFL. All right. More spiels for me. And we're just kind of going to hit on a couple guys, pros, cons. This is where I will have a problem with the New York Giants. I will. This right here. If you take Abdul Carter at 3rd overall, and I probably flip-flopped on this because I thought about it early in the year, and just too much stuff I've heard the other way that's really swayed the argument. The 34th pick in the draft is highly important for the New York Giants. Highly important. And around that range, the depth of the high second-round pick circles around defensive tackles and offensive guards, both of which the Giants could use at a high level. High level. If you have elected to pass on Shedeur Sanders at 3rd overall, and let's take out the equation that Shedeur Sanders falls a little bit, maybe the Saints go Jackson Dart at 9 and Shedeur Sanders is sliding, and then the Giants trade back up and go, we're going to take Shedeur now. Knowing that was probably the ire all along, and maybe the argument was just Abdul Carter was too good to pass up, I live with trading the 34th pick in a scenario like that, and you walk out of the draft with both Sanders and Carter. I want to make this clear. I'm okay with that. But if Sanders is gone, all right, whoever takes him, Jets, Raiders, Steelers trade up, the Saints take him at 9. If he's gone and you've passed and you've made that decision, there are a lot of names like Jalen Milroe, the quarterback from Alabama, Tyler Shuck, the quarterback from Louisville. I want to talk about him in a second. You've mentioned Kyle McCord, who I think is just going to be a backup in the league, Syracuse. There's other guys down the line. Why am I forgetting the Ohio State quarterbacks? And Will Howard. Okay. Quinn Ewers, I don't think fits Brian Dable at all. Anyway, I'm throwing all these guys out there to say, and I think the 2 that have been really linked to the Giants are Milroe and Shuck, so I want to talk about them.
Yep.
At 34 overall, if Milroe and Shuck are there, or you want to trade up with the Eagles to 32nd overall and give up an asset, I'm against it, man. I really am against it, because for all the knocks we've given on Shedeur Sanders, he is a better, cleaner prospect than both of those guys. He is, than Milroe and Shuck. And if you're going to use an asset on a team that's been so bad, like a high second-round pick like the Giants had on quarterback, well, then you're using that asset because it's not a lottery ticket. You think the quarterback can be the quarterback of your future. A lottery ticket falls into the 3rd round when Russell Wilson is originally taken, or the 4th round when Dak Prescott's taken, or the 7th round when Brock Purdy is taken. The Eagles didn't take Jalen Hurts in round 2 thinking he wouldn't be their quarterback eventually. They took him because they felt everybody else slept on him. They didn't have to take him high, and that he would be their quarterback, knowing there was some kind of flimsiness with Carson Wentz. If you use the 34th overall pick and decide you're not going to get better at defensive tackle or offensive guard, where you could get like a Pro Bowler, a lot of guys get taken at 34 and constant Pro Bowlers, and you go quarterback there, I think it's a complete waste of time, Bryce. I think it's a misidentification of trying to have your cake and eat it too. Look, you made the decision to pass at 3. That doesn't mean now, oh my God, we got to show John Mara we got a quarterback at 34. How many times does that hit? That doesn't hit. How many times does a defensive tackle hit there? How many times does an offensive lineman hit there?
Yeah.
You know, if you're committing to just making the roster better, and that would be what drafting Abdul Carter at 3rd overall is, then just commit. Just commit. And if there's a slide for one of these guys to one of your 3rd round picks, all right, it's a little bit of a different story. But pick 34 overall, man. That's got to be a guy that is a starter on this team for years to come. And you can't sell me that one of those quarterbacks is it. You can't.
How do you feel about them trading up from 34 to get, let's say, Jackson Dart falls to the end of the first round? How do you feel about them trading up for Jackson Dart?
Jackson Dart's the biggest wild card of the whole
Yeah.
situation.
That's why I asked.
I don't think I love it. I don't love Jackson Dart. I got to be real. I got to be real. I don't love Jackson Dart enough to do it. And also, how much are you giving up? You're probably giving up 34 and then one of your third rounders? I don't know, man. I think once you've passed the third overall, everybody talks about missing a third overall and what damage it could do to an organization. Well, what damage does trading two of your picks on day 2 do to your organization to take a quarterback that has a less of a chance of being a star, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do we not consider, because Abdul Carter won't be available in the second round? Okay, there's still a lot of good players that can be, certainly at positions that could help this team. Now, Bryce, let me just rip through a couple of the reasons I don't love Shuck and Milroe. Milroe I like more than Shuck just because at least he has an unbelievable trait, which is insane speed. Lamar Jackson, like even faster than Lamar Jackson.
According to, I saw the stat that he was clocked at over 21 miles per hour.
And at least
only 4 guys in the NFL. He'd be a top 5 fastest guy in the NFL at the quarterback position.
Absolutely. And I'm not denying that. And that's why, again, if you're asking me to choose one between him and Shook at 34, if the Giants are going to do this, I guess I'd choose him. Here's the problem. I spent a lot of time watching college football. Yes, I gamble on college football, and Alabama was constantly on. And even you go through stats, the last 2 years at Alabama, all right, you live with the completion percentage, 65%, basically both years. Didn't hit a 3,000-yard passing either year. And again, Alabama churns out receivers, but he was a runner, so that made up for a bunch of it. Last year, his 16-11 touchdown and interception ratio felt gross.
Yeah.
There were inexplicable throws at times from Jalen Milroe. And if you get to year 4 in an Alabama program, year 2 is your starter. You just simply can't be making those mistakes in the SEC. Now, again, bankable traits, speed, size, velocity of which he throws. Milroe possesses all of that, but the decision-making for me at an NFL level to be a savior to a franchise, it scares the hell out of me, man. It just does.
And also, you'd have to completely change your offense around to fit his game.
Right. Now I'll say this. The Ravens did it with Lamar Jackson with Greg
I
Auburn.
understand that, but Lamar showed a lot more promise with his arm than Jalen Milroe shows. I don't see. I think you're wrong. I see the benefits behind drafting Milroe, the fact that he's as raw of an athletic talent as we've ever seen enter the draft, but I don't know if those traits are going to automatically develop themselves. You might have to throw the ball 30 times in a game at max if you take Milroe and he becomes your starting quarterback. That completely limits your offense if he can't throw the ball downfield. And he's got unbelievable arm talent, but his decision-making sucks. And 16-11 in terms of his touchdown to interception ratio last year as a senior, in my opinion, just simply does not cut it.
Yeah, I'm with you. But if you're taking him, you're banking on the speed and everything that goes with it. Now, let's get to Tyler Shuck, who's going to be 26 years old.
Dude, he's a million years old.
In September. 26 years old, he's going to be in September. And for those of you who really want the background, look, she spent 3 years at Oregon, finally got to start in that COVID year of 2020. He was Justin Herbert's backup quarterback at Oregon. That's how long ago this guy's been in college football. Think about how long Justin Herbert's been a Charger. Then he goes to Texas Tech.
He was a part of Lamar's recruiting class.
Yeah. He goes to Texas Tech for 3 years. Lamar, though, was on the younger side of quarterbacks. His big year is 2022 when he starts 5 games before breaking his collarbone. He goes 5-0 that year at Texas Tech. Then last year in Louisville, he finally has, and this guy who's been constantly hurt, finally has a clean 12, the only time he started 12 games in his college career, goes 8-4 in a Louisville team, throws for over 3,000 yards, has 23 touchdowns, 6 picks, a really, really solid hang your hat ACC season for Tyler Shuck. Here's the problem. You're 25 years old in college at that point. You had a really, really good season. Good season at Louisville. You still went 8-4. You by no means dominated at any point where people thought you were the best quarterback at your age when you're a man amongst boys at that point. You were just really good and solid. Your injury history scares me. Tyler Shuck, to me, if you took him in the 5th round of this draft, like, okay, you can pass on building the team, and he was a 5th-round pick at 26, going to be 26 years old. I would look at that and go, okay, worst case, you develop him into a backup for the next couple of years, mature guy. Best case, you've magically found the Kirk Cousins of this draft, right? Who was a guy taken that late. But to take him in the second round, with it, A, with his injury history, B, with his age that didn't dominate, like he has done nothing that sexy or impressive. Tyler Shuck, make no bones about it, is simply the product of a weak quarterback class that has helped shoot him up.
Exactly.
That's what he is.
Is he not just Stetson Bennett 2.0? Just in a worse quarterback class? Like, I'm just saying,
in terms of ability, obviously Bennett has some demons, but this doesn't seem like he has some.
He actually won. So
here's what Shuck's college career reminds me of. For anybody that watches college football, he's got a lot of the Taysom Hill career. Taysom Hill got constantly injured at BYU, missed so many games, found a template to be successful in the NFL. Still ended up being more of a runner than a thrower. I think Shuck's more of a thrower than a runner, but just in terms of a guy who managed to figure out an NFL career after an injury-plagued college season of which he never got to dominate because of injuries. Yeah, like if we all talk about, well, if Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders was in last year's draft class, where would they be ranked, right? And we have that argument. And people differ on that. Well, where the hell would Tyler Shuck be put? He wouldn't be a second-round pick.
Yeah.
And I just keep coming back to this. You read the mock drafts, you listen to enough of the draft podcasts and the people that are really, really in the know here, and we thank you as we try to relay some of that info. Defensive tackle heavy. Maybe it's Omarion Hampton, the running back. There's too many stars taken in the second round, Bryce.
Would love that.
Stars. With that, our official draft predictions, what will go down, will occur next week early on the podcast. Bryce is off to Vegas to go hang out with wrestling freaks and have a great time. Bryce, have a good time in Vegas, buddy.
Thanks, Shaun. Appreciate it.
At Bryce Gelman on Twitter, at Shaun Morash on Twitter. Thanks for taking one giant step with us.